Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lisa. Today I am jumping on to show you how to make this really cute acorn pot holder. Mine is not perfect, but I needed something to grab the handle of my teapot, which I use multiple times a day, and this handle gets really hot, so I thought this was the perfect item to make. It's very fallish, and I have a ton of scraps. So I always peruse the internet for free patterns, and I found this pattern a really long time ago. This is actually from 2015. It was designed by a woman named Amanda Niederhauser, and she has a blog called, what is the name of her blog? Her blog is, Jedi Craft Girl. It's really small print, Jedi Craft Girl. And she shared her pattern with the ThermoWeb website. So what I did a long time ago is I printed it out. I cut and pasted the photos, printed it out, printed out the template. This is totally free. It's on the internet. I will leave the link below in the description box so you can follow along with me and also print out your own directions if you want to. So I always give credit, for other people's work. So this is the credit for Amanda's beautiful pot holder, and hers actually came out, I think, a lot better than mine, but I only made one so far. So what you do, really easy. First thing is you want to cut out the template. Print it out, cut it out. Here are my pieces. So we'll be going back to that later. Then the first thing you want to do is make strip sets. You take 2-inch long fabric strips, so 5 strips together, and you make 3 strip sets. Now I have a couple of strip sets left over from when I first made my first acorn, so I'm going to use these and make one more strip set. I have a lot of, like I said before, a lot of scrap fabric, and it doesn't really have to be that long. And we're going to go ahead and cut some 2-inch strips and then sew them together. This is a really beginner-friendly project. So if you are a beginner sewer or want to learn how to sew, this is perfect. And I hope I can show you just how easy this is. So let me just square up this fabric a little bit. And, in sewing, especially with this project, I am not searching for perfection. And this side right here seems very, it seems like it is pretty straight. So let's cut our first strip. You can use the lines on your mat. I usually use the lines on my ruler and just match it up to a side. Like I said, doesn't need to be totally perfect because you're just making a nice accessory. You're not making a huge quilt. And this one is actually going to be too long, but that's okay. I want to use some of this that I have. Like I said, I'm sure everybody has tons of scraps in their sewing room, and I am no exception. This fabric I used actually years ago in a quilt that I made for my son, my first twin size quilt that I quilted on my sewing machine. I will never do that again. That took me all summer a few years ago to quilt that. But I was determined to make a quilt start to finish. Okay. I like this purple. I've used this fabric for so many things that in my house, like accessories and stuff like that. I have a lot left over. go ahead and do a nice 2-inch strip. Like I said, I'm not even worried about the length of it. I'm just eyeballing them and kind of making the lengths pretty much the same. They say to make 3 strip sets of this fabric, and there was definitely a lot left over. So you can use it for something else. I think I want something light. That's going to be too short. And of course I thought I ironed this, but let's go ahead. And that side seems, just square it up a little bit. As you all know, be careful with your rotary cutter, because you can cut your fingers off with that, or at least injure yourself. I did have someone once comment in a video, close your rotary cutter after each cut. Well, I don't tend to operate that way. When I'm cutting multiple things, I leave it open, and I'm just very aware of where it's at. Let's see, this is 2 inches. This is kind of a squiggly fabric. Let's do a little purple maybe. Let's get a 2-inch strip in there, and then we will sew everything together and make 1 strip set, and then I'll show you what to do next. So I am going to use this for the top of my acorn. This fabric, I like it. This one, I used a little bit of green that I had, like a plushy fabric for the top. For this piece, I am just going to use a solid color to cut it out. Easy peasy. Okay, I'm going to go set up at the sewing machine. As some of you might know, I sew in my dining room, and I don't have professional equipment. I use my camera phone, and I sew at my table. Oh, I just want to show you before I transition over to the sewing machine. This pattern calls for fusible fleece, which you can definitely use. I didn't want to use my fusible fleece because I don't have a lot. So what I am using is just some cotton batting, just a square of it, just some scraps. And I didn't need to fuse this down because this is a really small project and it was just easy to manipulate. So I'm going to use this for my center. Let me cut this, close that. And I am going to use an old towel for the back. Here's an old dish towel that I had lying around. Does anybody recognize these patterns from old dish towels? So this is where I cut out my first piece, and I'm going to use this for the back. Really old dish towel. It has served me well over the years. Okay, let me go set up at the sewing machine, and I'll just show you how easy it is to sew some 2-inch strips. Okay, I am back at my sewing table. Have my machine all set up. I have my strips laid out how I want to sew them together. And let's just get started. I normally don't pin when I'm just sewing 2 pieces together like this, but you can. You can put a little clip in there just to make sure everything's going to be nice and straight. I do match up one end to be nice and even. And just a few wonder clips does wonders. So I do have a 1/4-inch foot on my machine. I'll be sewing this whole project with a 1/4-inch seam allowance. So here we go, guys. Very easy peasy. I just sewed 5 pieces together. I kept one edge pretty much aligned together. I didn't really care about the sizes. It's kind of scrappy, but that's okay. I am going to have enough to join it with my other strips that I already cut to make the full acorn body. In this pattern, you do not have to be exact on the length of your material. So if you have different sizes and just make 3 strip sets of the 5 pieces of fabric, you're going to be fine. I have more than enough here to make it. So no worries about the size. Just make sure each piece is 2 inches long. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and press this. Okay, I am back at the cutting table. Did my ironing. Everything is scrappy looking. And now I am going to cut it into 2-inch strip sets. So the first thing I'm going to do is just get me a nice cut line right over here. Let me line it up to a seam. Get a nice cut line so I have a good foundation to start the 2-inch cutting. So very easy. I'm just going to cut it into 2-inch strips and then sew them with my other strip sets and show you the results. I love this OmniGuard ruler I have. I think it's a must for any quilter. Mine is 23 inches by 6 inches. I use this all the time. I hope my hair isn't getting in the way. I probably should have tied it back. Okay, I got 3 out of that one. And I'm going to play around with the placement with these that I have already cut out, and you'll see plenty to use. Now, this is probably the hardest part, is deciding how I want it placed. Now, I mean, you could have just left it even, you didn't even have to subcut it into squares if you didn't want to. But I think it looks prettier this way. So I'm just going to mess around with the placement a little bit. Okay, I think I'm going to do that. And once I have it all sewn together, of course it'll shrink a little bit. I have plenty of room for this pattern. So let me go ahead and sew this together real quickly. So I have the order that I want to do this. And at this step, I will be matching up some of the seams. And though I have ironed some of the seams a certain direction, like this right here, I'm going to turn it so they set really nicely well. I'm not going to go back to the ironing board to re-iron it. I'll just feed it into my sewing machine and make sure that they're nested in the opposite directions, my seams. In this part, I will do a little bit of pinning because I do try to keep the lines nice and nested. And see here, I have my seams facing the opposite way, and they'll just lay better that way in the long run. But you know, it's just a pot holder, and nobody's ever gonna notice if it's not perfect. Because I am definitely not a perfect sewer. I think I've mentioned this before in a video. I like to get her done. Who said that? Larry the cable guy. Cable guy? Get her done. Finish a project, get her done. So, let's go ahead and sew the first strip, and then make sure right here that it's not up like I had ironed it. I'm gonna make it go down so it's nice and nested. And again, I'm using my 1/4 inch foot, and I'm gonna sew a 1/4 inch seam. There's no need to go backwards, you know, sew a few stitches and then go backwards, because this edge here is going to be cut out. Once I put that pattern down, it's not even going to be in the picture. Okay, now I have my last strip set. Doesn't that look pretty? It's pretty. I'm going to go iron it, and then I will show you how to pin the pattern on it, and if my camera angle works out good, I will cut it on camera. If not, I will cut it off camera. My strip set would have worked to cut the pattern out like this, but I wanted it at an angle. I could have sewed another strip and made it wider and would have had tons of room to cut out the pattern. I had a little scrap left. I just needed just a little bit more material. So I went ahead and sewed this scrap on so I can save the strips for something else. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to place it on the pattern, how it looks visually pleasing, and put a couple of pins in it. Try not to pin it on a seam. This is just regular copy paper that I used from a regular printer. Nothing fancy. And I think I'm going to do some with a rotary cutter and some with a hand scissor. And now this is my pattern for the acorn top. Fits. And I just simply, last time I just pinned it in 2 places. Lay it flat. And probably one more place. Just want to keep that fabric flat. Nice and flat. And then you just cut. The rest I'll do by hand. I will do, see that pin's kind of in the way, but I'm just going to cut straight across. And the rest I will do by hand up close so I don't, so I have more accuracy than with this cutter. But this straight part, I'm just going to use the rotary cutter. There we go. I love these little snips. All right, guys, I'm gonna do this up close to my face, not flat on a table, and I'll show you the pieces when they're done. So I cut out the fabric with the pattern. Let's take off the pins. It was a little tedious, but there we go. Got the body, and then here's the top. Get my pin cushion handy. And the next thing we're going to do, here's the top, is join these together, right sides together, and sew a line straight across. There we go. Probably the camera is a little bit too close. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick press and show you the next step. So I was having a few camera issues. The only thing that I lost was I cut out the cotton batting, the shape of the front, the shape of the acorn. I cut out a rough shell of my back. And to finish off the project, you just put the 2 sides together. I'm going to do some light pinning, and then I'm going to sew all the way around 1/4 inch. I'll probably leave this side right here for turning. I'll turn the project, iron it, quilt it, and top stitch it. I'm going to do simple machine quilting on the top, and then we should be done. So let's get started. Guys, I'm back at the machine. I am going to top stitch around the whole entire acorn, and most importantly, top stitch the area where I did the turning. So there we go, little acorn. I'm not sure if I am as happy with this one as I am with my first one, but let's go ahead and do some free motion quilting on the top and call it a day with this puppy. That is it. I will go ahead and cut the threads, give it a good press, and show you the end product. So this is the end of the tutorial. This is the finished product. The stem came out a little bit wonky. I believe this one looks bigger. Maybe I purposely cut this one bigger, I think, out of the pattern last time. So be careful when cutting the stem. If I were you, look at that. I would cut it a little bit bigger than the pattern. Or it could be my sewing that made it come out just a little bit dwarfed. I don't know. But it's cute. They're both really cute. And these are the backs. And it's a good way to use up scrap fabric, old towels. And there goes my son playing his drums. So I am going to end this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and please feel free to subscribe to my channel. It lets me know that you're interested in seeing some more tutorials, and I'll see you all in the next video, guys. Take care. Bye.